All right, so coming up next is a very interesting presentation where the speaker would talk about their company's own experiences as well as challenges and approaches that were developed in-house to boost capacity for BIM. May I call upon Mr. Rishabh Gautam, AGM Signaling and Telecom of the National Capital Region Transport Corporation, to grace us with some of his valuable viewpoints and experiences. Over to you, sir.
Before I begin, I really appreciate the appreciation, recognition everyone, all the speakers have given, Abhishek ji, Darshan, to the work that we have done. It really encourages us to do even better. And I'll just quickly dive into the presentation. We have various versions of this presentation that we do. We have given full day workshops. We have done 3-hour, 2-hour workshops. This is the first time we'll try and compress all that we need to pass on in 30 minutes. I'll try and keep it within time limit. But bear with me if we overrun by a couple of minutes. So in this presentation, we'll be covering what the NCRTC RRTS project is, Namo Bharat, which was recently inaugurated by our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, on 20th of October. A BIM workflow overview, which has already been covered, but I'll just quickly go through it. What we mean by BIM implementation in NCRTC, as in what deliverables we are expecting our contractors and our consultants to give. What is the current status of BIM implementation in NCRTC? Where we stand right now as on date. And then we'll directly jump into the topic about how NCRTC has created an internal capacity within the organization so that we can derive the maximum out of this BIM implementation challenge that we took up. So Regional Rapid Transit System is trying to fill in a gap between national level transport and city level transport. So what we are trying to do is connect regions within a 20 to 150 kilometer range. We are trying to connect Delhi with the neighboring satellite towns with a semi-high speed transport. So our trains are designed to travel at 180 kmph and travel at 160 kmph. So NCRTC, National Capital Region Transport Corporation, is tasked with building India's first regional rapid transit system corridors. So in phase 1, we have prioritized 3 corridors, of which the Delhi-Meerut corridor is already under construction, and the first 17 kilometers has already been inaugurated. The other 2 corridors are Delhi-Panipat and Delhi-SND. And this is already part of the national infrastructure pipeline which Abhishek ji was talking about earlier. And there are 5 other corridors planned as part of the RRTS plan. So as I said earlier, the RRTS vis-a-vis metro is a semi-high speed rail infrastructure designed for 180 kmph with an average speed of 100 kmph including stoppages. Now this really takes the suburban cities within the reach, so people can actually commute daily and go back to their hometown after they have done their jobs or studies. So I'll directly jump into the BIM workflow. So NCRTC has adopted BIM from the very beginning. So right from the conceptual stage, programming and conceptual stage, we have followed all the steps which we are all aware of. So I won't directly talk in detail about all these steps, but jump into what we mean when we say BIM implementation in NCRTC. So 3D is a given, right? But we have a shared information model. So these are not just dumb 3D models, they have rich metadata captured within this 3D model. We have already implemented 4D BIM, and recently we have had the, can we mute it? So, and recently we have already inbuilt the capacity of 4D BIM within our common data environment. So earlier we were relying on third-party tools. Now our common data environment actually supports 4D BIM implementation in itself. So this is all within the browser. So we don't require any third-party tools. Anyone with a laptop or a phone can actually visualize 4D models right from their tablets or laptops. Again, we are touching upon 5D. We are also implementing 5D where we do cost estimation and cost extraction from the BIM models. This is an interesting video. I'll just let this video play through. This is the design process that we follow. And as said by the earlier speakers, it is very important to actually create the complete 3D model before the actual construction begins. So we were able to build this station as a digital twin even before the construction began. Now, this is very important because once this was done, we were able to integrate it with GIS and assess what utilities needed to be shifted. So even before our contractors were mobilized, we were able to do all utility dimensions in time, which saved a lot of time and cost. When we talk about BIM and NCRTC, there are no 2D drawings. Everything is made in 3D, and 2D drawings are an output of all 3D models. And we have created and formulated these templates, which all our contractors need to follow. Good for construction drawings are extracted from BIM models automatically. Detailed schedules and quantities are also extracted from the BIM models automatically. The bill of quantity, as I said, is extracted automatically from our BIM models, and it's an automated task. It's a one-click process. It really saves time and cost even for our contractors and designers. So we are implementing BIM across all verticals, be it civil, electrical, plumbing. Even our system contractors are on the BIM platform, and they're providing us 3D models of all the system assets available. Just to highlight, so everyone knows what BIM is. We have seen a lot of 3D models, just trying to show that we have actually implemented BIM to the level that we wanted it to be. So even the small pipes, conduits, wires, everything is modeled. And this is what we defined in our EIR, our employees information requirement, to what level of detailing we really want information to be captured. Clash detection, the obvious benefits that we get during the construction phase of the project. And then going to the 7th dimension, that is asset management. So we have IBM Maximo as our AMS system, and we have we are lucky enough that our contractors and our AMS contractors are both onboarded right now, and they're able to interface and iron out any problems that may arise while transforming information through COBie from our BIM to our AMS system. So now jumping to the topic at hand. What is the status of BIM in NCRTC, and how we actually ended up building capacity for BIM implementation within NCRTC. So as I said earlier, NCRTC has already adopted BIM from the very beginning of the project. Right. So I joined NCRTC in 2017, and even then there were only a handful of employees. There were 10 employees in the organization at that point of time in 2017, and we were given a very clear mandate that we want to adopt BIM processes. And the very first step was we wanted to create a BIM EIR and get a very robust common data environment. Now, I cannot emphasize it enough that we need to have a very robust and user-friendly common data environment. I have seen good projects fail because the common data environment was very complicated. People did not want to use the common data environment. So when we started this journey in 2017, we visited many projects across India to study the BIM implementation that they were doing. And we created reports of what are the good aspects of those BIM implementation projects. We visited Nagpur, we visited Hyderabad, and then we understood that this is what they did right, and these are the mistakes that we can actually learn from. We incorporated all those learnings in our EIR, and we spent a lot of time in creating a tender for a common data environment, which would actually give us a cost-effective common data environment which is easy to use. We have seen projects where people do not even log into their CDE. Officers would give in their login ID and passwords to their subordinates. They would try and avoid doing the work because it seemed too complicated. The process was too convoluted. So we wanted to make the workflows very simple, smooth. We wanted to incorporate everything into a single sign-on. We saw projects where people were signing on to multiple different accounts to get the job done. So having a single sign-on, a single window to get all the tasks done was very important. So all those learnings we incorporated and we got the right solutions for NCRTC. And right now we are successfully transitioning from the project delivery phase of the BIM to asset maintenance phase of BIM. So BIM at NCRTC is part of a broader strategy, right? As I said, we wanted to provide a common data environment which enables BIM. So in our CDE, we can actually visualize 3D models without actually having to buy costly softwares from Autodesk or Bentley. I'm not trying to name any OEM, but without actually having to buy those costly softwares, with a cheap common data environment license, we can actually visualize, annotate, comment on all models. So not everyone requires those high-end tools, right? For most, people can actually open a browser, look at the 3D model, review it, comment on it, and be done with it. That saves the company a lot of time and cost. And as everyone has said before, BIM is not limited to the benefits during construction phase of the project. So imagine we are spending, Delhi Meerut corridor is a $4.5 billion project, 30,000 crores, right? The construction phase of the project was greenlit in 2019, and we have already constructed and launched the first priority corridor. So the construction phase of the project is 4 to 5 years, right? Most of the benefits and the life of the project is going to be for the next 50, 60 years. So how do we derive benefit of all the rich information that we have gathered in our BIM models during the asset maintenance phase? This was our focus from the very beginning, and this we very accurately captured in our EIR. So as rightly said by Darshan and Abhishek ji before me, we really need to nominate champions. If we want to make any project successful, it is very important, very critical that we identify champions within the organization who will take this endeavor forward. So very early on in the project, we involved many people from all verticals of the organization and made them BIM champions, who were then tasked on to spread this information of how to use BIM and why BIM was necessary within the organization. Procuring a BIM-enabled common data environment, that was critical. And then followed by creation of a detailed employees information requirement and of robust BIM templates and standards. So because of the lack of any standardized BIM templates and EIR to follow, we took it upon ourselves to create an EIR from scratch in NCRTC. And in order to have uniformity in the drawings and models submitted, we created our own BIM templates and BIM standards. And then what we did was we mandated these EIRs and templates through contracts. These standards were created before we floated the contracts, and this is very critical. If your contracts are floated, which do not have any clauses for mandating BIM implementation by your contractors, they will avoid it at all costs. But when you make it part of the contract, they can't avoid it, and they'll have to deliver it. We faced a lot of resistance from our contractors and consultants alike, saying that what we were planning or envisioning is too futuristic and not done in India before. The key is not to back down, because they have the talent and resources available in India. It's just about a matter of allocation of those resources on the project that requires those. So as I remember a figure, most of the BIM work is outsourced to India. Approximately 30% of the BIM work is already outsourced to India. The resources are available. It's just that we need to nudge these companies to allocate the resources to the right projects. So we have mandated right from day one that everything will be done on the BIM platform and on the common data environment. No physical submissions are accepted, and no 2D drawings are accepted. All interface and coordination meetings are done on our common data environment. So even our common data environment even supports MOMs, and BIM meetings are done on 3D models, on the actual models being displayed during the meeting, and then MOMs created by the respective departments parallelly. And we have followed ISO 19650 for AMS, and right now we have almost finalized all the COBie formats, and our contractors are passing on this information to our AMS contractor. Now, what is more important? So if you see that figure, the tools are important. BIM tools and the common data environment, it is very important. But what is more important, it has to be a management-driven initiative. It has to be a top-down initiative. If the management supports this everyone will actually fall in line with it. And then you need to build up competency from the ground level, because the high level management can only get involved to a certain extent. But the day-to-day usage falls with the junior engineers, the civil engineers, the assistant managers. They really need to be updated on the latest technology available. And then we talk about contractual mandate and work culture push. So this is an office order from 2019. So we started the journey in 2017, but we formalized the BIM champions in 2019, where we nominated employees from each and every vertical. So we had an organization strength of 40, and we nominated 20 as BIM champions who were tasked with spreading the information, knowledge of BIM, and bringing their juniors and their colleagues up to par with what BIM is, what processes are, and what they need to follow. Then we created a BIM EIR, where we detailed out what BIM goals and objectives we understand from BIM. So BIM is a very wide topic, which can have a lot of understanding and meaning for a lot of different verticals and companies. So what we expected out of our BIM models as NCRTC, as a railway project, we really detailed out those requirements in our BIM EIR, which was a 40-60 page document, which really comprehensively captured what we needed. And then we detailed out at various levels of project delivery what the contractor needed to deliver. So if our EIR is elaborate enough, if our standards are elaborate enough, the contractors can actually correctly estimate the time and effort they need to put into the project, which would avoid conflicts later on during the execution of the project. So if we do not have a very elaborate EIR, we will have conflicts that this was not asked in the contract. You are asking for something more. It's costing me more. They would land up into variations. But having a well-detailed and clear-cut EIR available enables us to have a smooth project delivery without any conflicts with our contractors. So within every contract in NCRTC, there was a separate annexure for EIR and CAD standards that we created within NCRTC. This really helped us achieve the BIM objectives that we were looking for. It would not have been possible if this was not done. All the steps that we have mentioned are critical, but again, this having contractual conditions implemented into the contract is of utmost importance. Apart from the EIR and BIM standards, we made it very possible that we will not be responsible for any training. This was one of the feedbacks that we were getting from the industry, that people are not trained on it. We did the market study, we did the analysis, and we found out that there are trained resources available in the industry right now, and we made it very clear that we will not be involved in the training of those resources. You just hire the right resources and get them on the project. Let them train it, right? Because otherwise they would have used this as an excuse to delay the implementation of the project. We took it upon ourselves to provide the common data environment free of cost to all contractors. Now, a common data environment can only be successful if it is implemented at the grassroots level. That actually meant handing out a lot of licenses. Luckily, India being a software IT hub, we were able to get a really good and competent common data environment at a very cost-effective rate. And we had unlimited licenses built into our contract. So we were able to actually hand out common data environment licenses right across NCRTC for all employees, and even multiple licenses to our contractors. So our common data environment, which is Wrench, which is an Indian firm. So this is just a small demo video of how through a browser we can actually perform all the tasks without actually need of any third-party software. So we are not playing the video in a fast motion, but this is the actual time it takes. A heavy model opens in a couple of minutes. This model would be approximately 500 MB or 1 GB. And then we are able to easily navigate through a model, a complete station model within the browser itself. And all these models, again reiterating, were before were built before the actual construction began at ground. And everything right from the small details to pits, pads, platform screen doors, all our system contractors provided the as-built models of their machines, the systems, which were incorporated into the BIM model provided by the civil contractor. And for our asset management system, we asked for LOD 500 models, which were then passed on to our IBM Maximo AMS system. So I'll skip the video. In the later part of the video, they give an example of how we do annotation and commenting right on the browser itself. Another advantage of how we were able to successfully implement BIM in NCRTC is the timely onboarding of our O&M and AMS contractor, which is also very critical. We need to understand that as a client, we have DB, Deutsche Bahn, as our O&M operator, and we have Accenture, who has brought in IBM Maximo as our AMS contractor. Now, if the onboarding of these contractors would have been delayed, our contractor would have submitted files which we would not have had time to validate. Having them onboarded, our AMS contractor can actually validate if the COBie files are good enough to be passed on to the AMS system, and our O&M contractor DB can actually validate if the information being passed on is useful for them or not. And this is really critical. If our contractor leaves and then the O&M contractor starts complaining that this is information that you have provided is of no good to me, then we are in a catch-22. We can't actually catch hold of the contractor, and we can't do much for our O&M contractor. So timely onboarding of our O&M and AMS contractors was actually very beneficial for us, because now while the project is being executed, they are able to comment and get things corrected. This saves a lot of interface time as well. Just quickly focusing on the AMS part, right? All the drawing, specification, warranties, maintenance manuals, everything is now embedded into our BIM model. Our structured database and machine interval data is now coded into Uniclass, which is then passed on through COBie to our AMS software. Just quickly trying to focus on what people have already talked about earlier. Globally, countries are mandating BIM implementation, and it is driven by the government. We also feel that there's a need of similar such guidelines and instructions to be made or mandated by the government, so that we can have adoption of BIM across large infrastructure projects. Then lastly, I would like to touch upon Aparimit, which is a center for excellence that we have created within NCRTC. And this was partly funded by Asian Development Bank and the British Council or Commission. So within Aparimit, we have set up our Center for Excellence for Building Information Modeling, Augmented Reality and Virtual Reality. Since we onboarded onto the BIM processes early on into the project and our contractors complied, we were able to actually go for futuristic use cases of building information modeling, which is augmented reality and virtual reality. So now we don't actually focus on if our contractor will give us the 3D model or not, if they will do 4D or 5D. We focus on how we can actually utilize this rich information for making our construction more smooth. So this is a small example of how we are using augmented reality to visualize construction before it happens at site. So we can actually use this augmented reality model, which we have created from the BIM information model provided to us, without any additional cost. So the BIM models, through use of certain softwares, can directly be translated into AR-based models. So what I'm trying to emphasize right now is, the time is right now that we don't focus on the very basics of what BIM is. We have to take them for granted and focus on the future use cases of what BIM can be. This can actually be utilized to validate if the construction is being done as per the design at site in real time. Just a small use case POC that we have done. We were able to validate if the platform screen was installed were as per the drawing, if all the nuts and bolts were matching or not. We're also able to do create SOPs for maintenance using, we are digitally converting our physical SOPs into AR-based training modules. So this is a augmented reality based training module for a IRS point machine. Again, all this has been enabled because we adopted BIM processes right from the very beginning. So by scanning a small QR code, we are able to align the virtual world and the real world on top of each other. The QR code acts as a coordinate system, a very cheap and cost-effective way. It costs us nothing to print a QR code. And now we can have guided maintenance. And if you can just go to the further part of the presentation, one thing we like to show in this video is, like while doing maintenance, if you forget an action, since these devices are connected to the internet, we can actually, or our common data environment, we can actually download the latest manual or the last maintenance sheets that were filled right into our headset while doing maintenance. So I would know while doing maintenance, who did the last maintenance, what was the various values, current electrical voltage values when the maintenance was done, what level of maintenance was done during the last maintenance visit. All that information can be directly downloaded from a common data environment directly into the headset while doing maintenance. So I do not need to actually physically carry any papers right now. So this is a very important parameter. This tongue and switch rail gap should be 160 mm, which we are able to do accurately through our headset, and since we had the digital model available. So these are the various benefits we have of creating digital twins of all our assets. Again, this is VR augmented reality based training. This is in Aparimit. We just with the click of a button, we are able to create a table. This is a train radio control panel which is actually installed in the train, and we are able to train our employees on this as many times as they want. So one of the various intangible benefits of having adopted BIM processes. And we have also now started integrating 3D printing. Because we have 3D models available for all our assets, we can actually replace, this is not a metal 3D printer, it's a FDM 3D printer. We can actually replace plastic parts with our own 3D printer without actually having to go into the warehouses. And then this also enables our employees to find creative ways to solve problems. So we need, I'll give you an example of, we needed to create a special device to hold our camera on our trolley, and we were able to ideate and create that device within the same day. From design to actual having a prototype in hand within hours, which would not have been possible without these kind of technologies or having BIM models available. Thank you. I think I finished before time. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gautam. I'm sure that these information bits about your on-ground experiences will not only help institutions and leaders that are struggling to build capacities for BIM implementation, but will also motivate many others to take a leaf out of your book and successfully achieve their goals for BIM. And now, to appreciate your efforts, may I please call upon stage Ms. Sangeeta Mehta, Portfolio Lead, Infrastructure and Urban, British High Commission, to present a memento. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Gautam, ladies and gentlemen?